Why, hello everyone, how are you doing this fine day? Hope you're enjoying your week. Welcome to another survival challenge, in particular, a World War Hulk survival challenge. Basic premise of this challenge is simple. You know the whole World War Hulk storyline, where Hulk in the comics, World War Hulk, he goes off to Sakaar, does a bunch of stuff, has an adventure, Planet Hulk style, and then there's a big ass nuke that goes off and he blames Earth for doing it. So he collects a giant army that he builds on Sakaar and goes to Earth and invades, not the world, it's really just like the island of Manhattan. It's kind of disingenuous to call it World War, since it's not even a full country, it's literally just the island of Manhattan, but whatever. Hulk, as well as the entire army, goes down there and fucks up the whole city because he blames them for killing his wife and unborn child and destroying an entire city on Sakaar, and that's the basic plot. We're gonna do that, take that whole situation, but instead of him going down to, like, Marvel's Earth, he's gonna blame some other location, and then we're gonna take Hulk and his entire Sakaarian army, we're gonna send him to that new location to see what would happen. How's that gonna go down? Is that gonna be cool? It's probably gonna be a little cool. We're gonna go over that. Now, oftentimes when I make these survival challenges, I don't make them because I want to see who would survive or talk about who would survive. Sometimes I do, but a lot of times I just use these videos as an excuse to talk about something else that I want to talk about, and that's no different with today's video. I've talked about it in the past, but I've never really gone into super hardcore detail about this, but essentially, a lot of people, when they talk about the strength of comic book characters, they just take shit from random locations all across Marvel Comics and just say, like, this is just how they are, and this is just the way it is. I think it's extremely obvious that people only do this because they don't actually read the comics, they don't know what they're talking about, and they just see images and pages and like individual panels and then just make massive assumptions based on that, not understanding the context or the timeline or anything that they need to know to understand why that thing was even possible. And generally, my standpoint of this whole situation, and you know, the truth, is simply that every single author that comes into Marvel to write a particular story has a different opinion on the strength levels of different characters. So when you see something like Hulk fighting Sentry during the World War Hulk storyline, and you automatically take Sentry and start comparing him to the absolute strongest feats of Sentry, most of which he hasn't even done yet in the timeline of the story, that is incredibly fucking flawed because the guy who wrote World War Hulk did not believe and did not write Sentry to be that powerful in this particular story. And for this video, I'm gonna go through the entire 5 years of the Greg Pak run, Greg Pak being the guy who wrote World War Hulk, Planet Hulk, and a bunch of other storylines. It's basically gonna cover the prelude to Planet Hulk all the way up to the Heart of the Monster storyline where he just kind of stopped. Because after that, he was done with his Hulk run and they brought some other dude to continue the Hulk series with a totally new storyline, and they got rid of the Hulk family and everything basically changed from that point. But for this 5-year period, there was a Marvel writer known as Greg Pak who essentially decided everything when it comes to what was going on with this Hulk story. He introduced a lot of new concepts into Hulk, and he wrote Hulk very consistently within this 5 years to be a particular power level. And when I see people saying that Hulk and Worldbreaker Hulk and all these other characters in this story are universal and multiversal characters, I just have to ask, like, did you guys read the fucking story? So in this video, I'm gonna run through these 5 years of comics and talk about the basic power level that is clearly shown to be here, and why a lot of people making these certain claims, like Worldbreaker Hulk is this universe, multiverse buster, is just not true as far as the context of this story is concerned. So basically, I'm only taking these 5 years, this Greg Pak run, and talking about the themes and different stuff within this one story, and I'm ignoring anything that happens before or after it because Greg Pak ignored everything that comes before and obviously couldn't know what comes after, because as far as I'm concerned, the man didn't have fucking future sight. And then you, by watching this video, when you get to the end, you can come to the conclusion of whether or not I'm full of shit, or maybe I actually have a point, and that you can't just take these characters out of context with a bunch of fucking images that aren't related to one another and just assume that this is just their power level all the time. Doesn't make any sense. I don't know, you decide. But I'll waste enough of your time. Let's get started. So our story starts off with the release of a single issue comic called The Prelude to Planet Hulk. Technically, I probably shouldn't even count it because it's not written by Greg Pak. It's written by a totally different dude. Hulk acts completely differently in this storyline, but this story is referenced multiple times in Greg Pak's run, and it does explain why the whole Planet Hulk, World War Hulk situation happened anyway, so I feel like I should probably go over it. It's a pretty simple story about Hulk going on yet another rampage that then leads Reed Richards to sending the Human Torch and the Thing to go deal with him, which they can't. The Thing can't do anything against the Hulk, and the Human Torch straight up uses his most powerful move, Supernova, and it does literally nothing to Hulk. It doesn't even really seem to affect him all that much. And the threat of the Hulk is eventually thwarted by, you know, Bruce Banner and Hulk himself when he just sort of naturally calms down and stops his rampage. This is the event that makes Reed decide to send Hulk off planet Earth because, as he puts it, the Human Torch's Supernova has always been powerful enough in the past to actually put down Hulk, and this time it didn't, which makes him believe that Hulk is getting stronger, and eventually, if they just let it go, nothing will be able to stop the Hulk once he goes on one of his rampages. Now, is this true? Was Supernova always a guaranteed way to put down the Hulk in the past? No, we've seen Supernova hit Hulk and not work before. This is essentially a retcon. And this is kind of something you're going to notice as I talk about Marvel Comics as a whole. When a new writer comes in and creates a new storyline, he essentially completely retcons the characterization, where characters are, past stories, power levels, everything. It's just whatever his interpretation of these characters are and whatever works for his particular story, which is why I think scalers and different people like to talk about these certain fight things, just taking all the characters across their entire history makes absolutely no sense, because these characters change in power levels and characterization in every single story. The whole thing is rebooted essentially every time a new writer comes in. This is one of those examples. The Human Torch has never been able to take out the Hulk in the past. Reed's entire reason for sending Hulk off Earth being because Human Torch couldn't take him out doesn't make sense if you're looking at the entire history of Hulk and the Human Torch as one big story. But it's perfectly okay if you take this comic as the start of a new storyline that is only contained within itself, which is honestly the only way reading Marvel Comics makes any fucking sense and isn't a complete clusterfuck of a storyline. After that, he's tricked onto his spaceship that is then launched away from Earth with the goal of him going to a planet that's super peaceful and there's no war and no violence and it's supposed to be cool. He's just gonna live out the rest of his life in this super peaceful place. That doesn't happen. His ship gets shot off course and goes into a wormhole, and when it comes out of the wormhole on the other side, it lands on Sakaar, which is a super war-torn planet. Bunch of different races all hate each other. It's ruled over by this evil dictator known as the Red King, and he has this fetish of taking super strong warriors and throwing them into a coliseum to fight for his own personal enjoyment. One thing that is clearly established at the very beginning of this story is that after Hulk comes through the wormhole, he is incredibly weakened. A character just straight up tells Hulk that anything that comes out of the wormhole is incredibly weakened from when it went in. The guy who finds Hulk is surprised that he's even capable of standing, because most people just straight up passed out. And throughout the entire course of Planet Hulk, Hulk is insanely weakened. He's nowhere near the normal Hulk strength that he is beforehand. I made a Planet Hulk survival challenge a while back, and in that challenge I put a bunch of characters through it, and a couple people in the comments were arguing with me about, why are you putting all these weak characters, saying that they're better than Hulk? Or that these characters are as weak as you're saying they are because they fought against Hulk and they should do it. Hulk's like universal or multiversal or some shit. And it's like, you guys didn't read the comic. Like, you guys didn't read the comic at all. And here's the thing, I don't mind people disagreeing with me and coming at me and being like, well, no, you're wrong because of this or this or this or whatever. That doesn't bother me. The thing that bothers me is that we're supposed to be using the internet to make ourselves smarter, and people so oftentimes use the internet to make themselves dumber. They allow things like Google searches and Google AI to replace like actual knowledge of the thing. So they'll debate with me about things like how strong Hulk is during the Planet Hulk storyline, and I'll talk to them, you know, in good faith, or at least I'll try to. And as I'm talking, I start to realize that anytime I go into detail, they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about because they haven't actually read the story. They don't know anything about it. All they did was go online and see individual panels that were out of context and just unearned knowledge that they got online somewhere, trying to argue with me about how strong these characters are or what their characters are like or any of this. They don't know anything. They're arguing based on zero first-hand knowledge. It's all like third or fourth-hand knowledge. And it's fucking weird. It's a serious plot point in this story that Hulk is significantly weaker. The reason why he doesn't break out of the Coliseum, because he physically can't. He can't break through the stone walls and get out of the Coliseum. The Coliseum has no roof to it. Why doesn't Hulk just jump out of the fucking Coliseum? We know that he can jump from country to country. Why can't he just exit the Coliseum at any time? Because he fucking can't. He doesn't have the physical strength to jump out of that place anymore. We see characters with just basic spears and guns and little simple robots be capable of damaging him. At multiple points in the story, he's severely damaged by fire. He's also damaged by magma at one point. Despite the fact that we just saw him in the prelude to Planet Hulk survive the supernova without any real damage. His healing factor is also significantly weaker, as we see it sometimes it takes literal hours for him to heal from things that he would have healed from in seconds prior. He is not as strong in this storyline as he has been. That is very, very clearly established and important for this story as well as the rest of the video. Anyway, I'm skipping a lot of details here, but he fights in the Coliseum for a while, beats a bunch of dudes, basically becomes the champion, escapes from the Coliseum, builds an army, starts a whole war with the Red King. For bare minimum several months, he has this whole relationship with Kyara where she's serving the Red King King, but she eventually joins him and then becomes one of his generals. They have this little romance thing. He eventually topples the Red King, becomes the king himself, and then we spend several more months of him actually being king and ruling over the planet Sakaar. Basically, if all your knowledge of Planet Hulk is the animated Planet Hulk movie, you've only got like 20% of the story maybe, and that 20% is heavily edited and toned down, and a bunch of plot points are completely ignored or stripped from it entirely. The two stories are really nothing alike. That movie is really just a very basic summary of the first third of the comic, and that's about it. So don't watch that movie and think that you know the actual story, because it's considerably longer. Eventually, after he becomes king of Sakaar, he marries Kyra, and she's pregnant with twins, his children, and he's super happy about that, and he's comfortable, he's happy, things are going well. The ship that he was sent to Earth on fucking explodes. Massive nuclear explosion, wipes out the entire city that he's in, and kills literally everybody, including his wife Kyra, and as far as he is aware, his unborn children that were inside of her. This makes him lose his fucking mind. He gets super pissed, gets a large portion of his army together, gets on a ship, and leaves Sakaar to go wage war on Earth. And that's the end of the Planet Hulk storyline, which then leads into the much more popular, but I personally think way worse written storyline of World War Hulk. And this is where the whole character power level stuff starts to get a little weird. The entire story of both Planet Hulk and World War Hulk keeps bringing up this concept of the World Breaker, because on Sakaar there's this prophecy that eventually some being will show up that will become the World Breaker, and he will gain the power to destroy worlds. Throughout Planet Hulk, there are many characters that believe Hulk is the World Breaker, that he will be a character that acquires the power to destroy worlds. But it's made very clear in Planet Hulk as well as World War Hulk that he doesn't have that power yet. It is a prophesized thing that will most likely happen, and that prophecy does eventually come true, but a lot of people who again didn't read these storylines and just know things about them based on stuff they read on the internet like to come in and say that Hulk throughout this entire storyline, all of World War Hulk, is at bare minimum planetary, and the World Breaker Hulk form is actually like this multiversal, universal level fucking character. But the actual story of the comic contradicts this, because again, the whole plot of the story is that he will become the World Breaker. He will gain the power to destroy worlds. Up to this point in the story, where we are currently, at the end of Planet Hulk, the most impressive thing he did is at one point the Red King, just basically out of spite because he thinks he's gonna lose, decides to just kill everybody, and he does this by splitting two continental plates. Hulk jumps into the split and grabs the two continental plates and just holds them and stops them from splitting apart. He doesn't pull them back together, he just holds them, and this takes all of his strength to do. He almost passes out trying to keep this shit from splitting apart. This is the very end of Planet Hulk, when Hulk is at his most powerful in the story, very shortly before he leaves to go and attack Earth. His absolute peak levels of strength is stopping the splitting of these continental plates. People who say that he's planetary at this point are just straight up wrong. Now, after Kyra and his unborn children die, he acquires this new level of strength because he's acquired this new level of rage. So he's definitely stronger than this. But again, just keep that in mind. As of right now, that's the strongest thing we've seen him do. And it was the peak of his strength, as there were several characters who thought he was going to die doing it, and he himself was nearly exhausted after doing it. So just be aware of that. Now, when we get to World War Hulk, it's basically just fight after fight after fight after fight. There's some story here, but it's awful. Doesn't make any sense. It's really bad. But basically, you really only read this storyline for the fights. Planet Hulk was very character-driven and story-driven. World War Hulk is just like, hey, you want to see a bunch of cool, crazy matchup fights? Let's do that. And for that, it's pretty cool. This is where people who, again, haven't actually read the comic come to the conclusion that he is multiversal because of some of the characters that he fights. Mainly two fights make them think that. One is a fight with Doctor Strange where he gets a little bit of the power of Zom and amplifies his own power. And the second is Sentry. Both of these characters are widely considered to be multiversal level threats based on a lot of stuff. A lot of it bullshit, some of it not so much. But I will say, as far as this storyline is concerned, it's bullshit. The fight between Doctor Strange and Hulk is very unimpressive. Strange beats the living shit out of Hulk. There's nothing he can really even do to him. And then during Hulk's beatdown, he gets launched into a building that nearly caused it to collapse on a bunch of innocent people. Hulk has to go and shield them from the collapse. When Doctor Strange sees this, he realizes that he's not properly controlling the power, and he becomes very, very scared of using Zom's power from that point on. This gives Hulk the opportunity to punch Doctor Strange, to which he flies through a truck and into a building, which Doctor Strange just did to Hulk, and Hulk kind of badmouthed him for punching him into a building carelessly when he didn't know there was no people in it. But then Hulk literally reacts by doing the exact same thing and just kind of lucked out by the fact that there was no people in that building. Like I said, not the best written. But Hulk punches Doctor Strange. He flies like a block away, smashes through a car, lands into a brick wall. Hulk jumps on top of him, punches him like 4 times, and he's fucking done. There's nothing here even close to the previous levels of powers that we've seen the character of Zom do. We don't have any confirmation of whether or not this was the full power of Zom. He just took a fraction of Zom's power to give him a buff, and he was able to be severely damaged by a punch that literally just sent him through a truck and into a brick wall. He didn't even go through the brick wall. He just hit a brick wall. This punch hurt him tremendously, and he was nearly knocked out, with Hulk just getting on top and ending it with a couple more punches. But yeah, there's nothing here that's multiversal, and people comparing Doctor Strange with this fraction of Zom's power to the actual Zom, who, by the way, we haven't seen at this point in comics in like 20 or 30 years, and just assuming they are of equivalent power despite the fact that it's stated that it's just a sliver of his power, and despite the fact that Doctor Strange is not wanting to utilize the full power. He's scared to use it. He's afraid he might hurt somebody, and the fact that he's knocked out in like 4 hits. There's just nothing here pointed even close to the universal, multiversal level of power that the original Zom arguably did have. The second one that gives everybody this idea that Hulk is, a universal, multiversal character is because he defeated the Sentry. And yes, he did defeat him. I've heard some people say it was a tie, but very clearly wasn't a tie. The Sentry was knocked the fuck out by the end, and Hulk was still standing, and Hulk even fought after that. So no, it was not a tie. Hulk beat Sentry. However, this also doesn't make a whole lot of sense. For one, this version of Sentry is a version of Sentry that doesn't have the vast majority of feats that people like to look at when they try to talk about how strong Sentry is. None of his best feats have actually happened yet. He didn't take on Asgard by himself. That won't happen for another year or 2. He didn't defeat Molecule Man. He didn't defeat the Void. He didn't even know what his powers were at this point. He still thought his powers were energy-based. Eventually, he finds out they're molecular-based a couple years after this. This is a much, much weaker version. He's also a version of Sentry who is an agoraphobe and is terrified of going outside, and he feels uncomfortable just going outside, but forces himself to solely so that he can fight the Hulk because he thinks the Hulk is going to wreck everything and start all kinds of problems. Up to this point in the comics, Sentry has very, very few legitimate feats. There's one statement that happened in like the year 2000 where Spider-Man says that he stalemated Galactus. However, again, it's one of those things that people take out of context because the entire point of that story is that Spider-Man looks up to this dude Sentry as like this godlike being who is one of the heroes he admired growing up, only to then find out that, well, he's actually not that. He's a totally different person. And all this sort of fangirling that Spider-Man's been doing for him is completely misplaced because Sentry's not as great of a dude as Spider-Man originally thought he was. But people completely throw out all of that story context. It's just like, no, he said he stalemated Galactus. Basically, everything Spider-Man says about Sentry in that storyline is shown to be false. It's just based on his warped view of who Sentry is, not who Sentry actually is. We never actually see Sentry fight Galactus, probably because it never happened. And even if it did, there's no real context as to how it happened, what were like the details of the fight. Did he have help? Did he not have help? We don't know. Like, I could tell you right now that Kitty Pryde beat Galactus and the Thing beat Galactus, which is true. Are there details around how that was possible that are more than just them walking up to him and beating the shit out of him? Yeah, there's some things here and there. But if I don't tell it to you and I just say that the Thing beat Galactus, that's technically true. So if Spider-Man says that Sentry stalemated Galactus in a storyline where it's all about him learning the truth of Galactus and that his view is warped at the start, why would you take that into like realistic, like for sure that's what happened and there's nothing like this might not even happen. Like, people really need to stop just taking single images and then putting that across the internet like it's gospel and reading those images on the internet and then just assume, yep, nope, don't need no other context, it's not important. important. I don't even know what that storyline was all about. It's not like this individual panel that I just saw is part of a greater, more complex story or anything. It's just a picture, and this is all the detail I need. That's stupid. Stop doing it. Outside of that, Sentry's greatest feats up to this point is that he defeated the Collective, which was pretty impressive. The Collective is basically his character has the power to adapt as he fights, but he also has the ability to steal the, energy signatures of different characters. It's unclear exactly what this does, because he doesn't copy their powers or their strength, but he can steal energy signatures, and every time he does it, he gets a little bit stronger. He does this to 40 different mutants, and it makes him so strong that the X-Men are struggling to beat him, and then Sentry shows up and fights them by himself and wins. The problem is that the energy signatures that the Collective steals, none of them are universal or multiversal characters, and the X-Men that fight against them, none of them are universal or multiversal characters either. Sentry beats him, but it's a massive challenge, and it's one of the closest fights he's ever had. There's still nothing here that's multiversal or universal or anything even close to that, and as of this point, this is the hardest fight he's ever had. The only other one I can think of is when he fought Ultron, and he won, but again, it's mostly just him fighting this robot dude and punching him through walls and flinging him across, spaceships and shit, and there's really nothing that impressive about it. Ultron has never really been viewed as being top tier within the Marvel universe, this universal being, so I don't even think I really need to defend that one, to be honest with you. People will also bring up the whole phrase that is used to describe Sentry, that he has the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, which again, if you understood the character, you would realize is bullshit. The whole character is about how his entire persona is bullshit. The persona of Sentry is bullshit. The only reason why they even say that he has a power of 1,000,000 exploding suns is because that's something that Sentry says about himself. He believes that he has that power. He believes that his power is absorbing sun rays, and he acquires his power from the sun. He sees himself as this Superman-like hero, or at least he aspires to be this Superman-like hero. But he's not. He's not even close. We end up finding out his power has nothing to do with the sun, and it's actually just molecular manipulation. The whole power of 1,000,000 exploding suns was just something that was invented by him because he has this idea of himself that he's constantly trying to make into reality, but it's a false idea. It's not true. Now, while over time in the comics he has acquired much power and he has become one of the strongest heroes in all of comics, that's only been the past 10 years or so. If you go back farther than that, he was super powerful, but his power levels were unbelievably inconsistent, and when they were super powerful, he always turned evil and caused problems for people, and there was all kinds of problems. It's only until more recently in comics that he's had a more consistent level of power where he could do all kinds of crazy stuff, and all of that shit happened after the World War Hulk storyline. Again, this is how I know the people who argue this shit don't read the comics, because they constantly reference things to prove his power when he fought the Hulk, even though all of those things they reference happened well after that fight happened, years after. You cannot say that because Hulk defeated Sentry, that means that he could take on all of Asgard, just like Sentry did, because Sentry takes on all of Asgard 3 years later in comics than he did during the World War Hulk storyline. Now, do I think World War Hulk can take on Asgard? Probably, but that's not the point. My point is that there's really no evidence towards him being able to do that unless you start taking shit out of context, out of the timeline, and mixing them all up, which you wouldn't do for literally any series. Would you compare Captain Kuro's strength in One Piece to, say, I don't know, Rob Lucci's because Luffy fought evenly against both of them? No, because Luffy was vastly stronger when he fought against Rob Lucci than he was when he fought against Captain Kuro. You wouldn't take that storyline out of context, out of order, and just start giving fucking scaling for it all. So why do you do it for Marvel Comics and DC Comics and really just comics as a whole? That's simple. Because you haven't read the stories and you don't know the fucking order of the timeline. Hulk in the World War Hulk storyline is not World Breaker yet. According to this storyline, he has not acquired the power to destroy the planet. He fights against a bunch of different characters, none of which are shown to have anything even closely resembling that, and he doesn't actually go World Breaker until after Sentry's already passed out, to which he takes one single step and it shakes the entire fucking eastern coast of the United States. At this point, he is finally the World Breaker Hulk, but he doesn't even use it to fight against anybody. But yes, he is World Breaker at this point. I'm not gonna take that from him. But I've legitimately heard people say that Hulk in this storyline throughout the whole thing is just a multiversal character that just takes on and beats the shit out of a bunch of other multiversal characters. No, he doesn't. At no point does he do any of that. But that's not the end, because the Greg Pak run actually runs for another 3 years after this. And it continues the story past the World War Hulk storyline. Now, I'm not gonna go over every single thing that happens in 3 years because it's a lot, it's excessive, there's a lot lot of stuff here. There's the Intelligentsia storyline, the Chaos King storyline, the Hero Kala storyline. Just goes on and on and on and on. At one point, every single Avenger gets Hulk powers, and Hulk has to fight all of the other Avengers while also them being Hulks. It's like the Hulk family versus the Avengers as Hulks. There's a lot of stuff, but I will go over a couple of things that are very relevant to the video and what I'm talking about. One of those things being Hulk's very first fight with Scar, which people really like to ignore this fight. And the reason why they like to ignore this fight, especially when it comes to scaling, is because it makes Hulk a lot fucking weaker. And it's literally the best evidence that exists within this entire 5-year time period that accurately scales the physical strength of the Hulk. So at one point, Scar, Son's Hulk, decides that he wants to go and kill his fucking father because he blames him for his mother's death and bailing on him as a child because Hulk thought he was dead. It's a whole thing. Anyway, eventually he arrives to Earth and he ends up getting into a fight with his father, the Hulk. Scar is not capable of actually defeating the Hulk, and the Hulk's kind of, well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, but it's close-ish, but Hulk is still very clearly winning. So in order to win, Scar touches the ground and absorbs all of the energy that he can out of the Earth. He has the ability to do this because he has the old power, which was passed on to him from his mother. He's a Hulk from his dad's side, and he can utilize the old power from his mother's side. So he's like a half Hulk, half old power using person. Anyway, point is, he absorbs a bunch of energy and then he punches Hulk directly in the chest. This punch sends Hulk flying across multiple state lines, completely knocks him the fuck out, and Scar wins the fight. The reason why this is such an important moment in Hulk history is because we got a legitimate statement as how strong this punch is. It is stated by a scientist who is measuring the amount of force that is being output that this punch is 100 trillion tons of force. That's about country level. That's it, just country. Scar and Hulk are fighting relatively evenly, with Hulk slightly winning, and the one-shot Hail Mary move that Scar uses to overcome the Hulk is a country level attack that immediately one-shots the fucking Hulk. It is impossible to read this storyline and still consider Hulk to be multiversal or universal or even close to planetary. This is one of many reasons why it's so easy for me to make fun of scalers, because they will do Olympic level fucking gymnastics to try and force shit like universal, planetary, whatever, multiversal, whatever they want to do. But when they get hard fucking numbers that's literally written on the page where they don't have to do all this fucking gymnastics, it's just there, they ignore it completely because it goes against what they're trying to force. If Hulk was universal, multiversal, and all that shit, this punch wouldn't have done shit to him, but it fucking knocked him out and sent him flying multiple states away. I should also make clear that in this exact same storyline, Scar defeats another character that is often wanked to fucking hell, Juggernaut, by punching his ass up into space. This is a character that has to be massively fucking amped with the energy of the Earth just to reach the smallest of country. If you go to like fucking Versus Battle Week and you see their whole, list of here's the amount of force and this is what it does kind of thing, 100 trillion tons is the bare minimum of country. If you remove 1 pound from it, he goes into the tier below it. Go ahead, motherfucking scalers. Please fight against this. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me how the actual fucking number of force being measured by a scientist during the fight is wrong, and how your bullshit fucking I saw this shit and I'm gonna do this bullshit math on Google is right. Please let me know how that's the case. A little later on, there's another story with Red Hulk, which, by the way, it should be noted, the Red Hulk comics weren't written by Greg Pak, they were written by Jeff Loeb, while the Green Hulk comics were written by Greg Pak, but they were very, very closely linked and they constantly talked to each other. They were basically like partners expanding the Hulk mythos over the course of this 5 years, with Jeff Loeb doing the Red Hulk side and Greg Pak doing the Green Hulk side, and you literally can't read one without the other because they constantly like weave in and out of each other. So anything that happens to Red Hulk is basically also, you have to take it when you do the Green Hulk shit. Anyway, in the Red Hulk storyline, Red Hulk eventually fights Green Hulk. Green Hulk loses. Red Hulk beats him. It's very clearly established in both the Green Hulk comics and the Red Hulk comics that Red Hulk became the strongest being in all of Earth. He is, yes, compared to both Hulk and Sentry, as being more powerful. He very casually defeats Thor by taking his hammer, beating the living shit out of him with his own hammer, and then launching his ass to the moon. It's super, super fucking easy. And after all this, after he's stated to be stronger than Sentry, after he defeated Hulk, who already defeated Sentry, after he beats the shit out of Thor, he then goes on to absorb a bunch of different powers, which, by the way, at this time, the Hulk's power was that he could absorb all forms of energy, and that just adds to his overall power. So he was just continuously increasing in power throughout, like a year of his existence when he first came out. He eventually goes on to absorb a bunch more energy entirety, including the entirety of the cosmic power of Silver Surfer. That's right, he defeats Silver Surfer in a fight, absorbs all his energy, steals his board, and then goes to fight Galactus. Galactus then immediately fucking one-shots him, takes away all of his fucking cosmic energy powers, and just like boots his ass back to fucking Earth. Now, if you want to be a proper scaler, okay, you would then have to say, okay, so Sentry got beat by Hulk, Hulk got beat by Red Hulk couldn't beat fucking Galactus, he got one-shotted. So the statement that Spider-Man had said earlier, back in the Sentry run, back in like 2000, where he said that Sentry stalemated Galactus, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense now, does it? Maybe because it's bullshit and it's being said through the eyes of a fanboy who really looks up to Sentry as this thing that he actually isn't? Perhaps, you know? Throughout the 5 years of this Greg Pak run, we just see example after example after example after example of these characters not being anywhere close to fucking universal or multiversal like people argue. Hulk, if you read through this series and actually absorb the content and take the context surrounding what happens throughout, Hulk is not planetary until he becomes World Breaker Hulk. Once he does, yeah, then he becomes planetary. The Greg Pak run literally ends with him destroying a whole fucking planet after he fully embraces the World Breaker Hulk persona. But before that, there's nothing even close. I'm not saying that there aren't versions of Hulk somewhere in the comic where he has multiversal levels of power. There are. Gamora Hulk is a really good example of this. Alright, scalers aren't gonna know who the fuck Gamora Hulk is. They call him Toba Hulk, which means the one below all. It's like an anagram or whatever. Toba Hulk, because they didn't actually read the fucking story and don't know what its real name is. It's actually called Gamora Hulk in the story. So why do you keep calling it Toba Hulk? You know how many people I've talked to who talk about Toba Hulk and how powerful he is, then when I say Gamora Hulk, they're like, who's that? That's what his fucking name is! The dude you're talking about! If you read the book that you claim to be fucking knowing, you would know that. That wouldn't sound like a completely out of here statement. He's called Gamora Hulk several times. Fucking hell. I am simply saying that as far as the writer of these storylines is concerned, Greg Pak, these characters are not planetary with the individual exception of World Breaker Hulk. You got a problem with it? Go fucking talk to him about it. He's the one who wrote the goddamn story this way. So if I take the Hulk storylines, Planet Hulk, World War Hulk, and I just chuck that situation over to these other 4 planets to see what would happen if they come into contact, how would that go? Taking all of the past shit that I just said into context and not just suddenly trying to fucking, I don't know, jerry-rig the numbers to make the shit universal and multiversal and all this bullshit? How would that go? I don't know. Let's find out. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Join the membership, you get exclusive access to unique videos that no one else could get. And don't forget to check the pinned comment down below where you will see a link to the Discord where we have all kinds of fun things like D&D and fucking writing tournaments and drawing shit and just all kinds of stuff. Streams are over there, debates, all kind, anything you want, all the stuff. And a link to my second channel where I put any videos over there that are not survival challenges. If you don't like survival challenges, or you just fucking, I'm so sick of survival challenges, then go over to the second channel, because that's the non-survival challenges, and you know, I mean, that might be kind of cool. Go check it out. First up on the chopping block, we have Japan from Kaiju number 8. And I know the video says these worlds survive, like I get it, I know. But I mean, World War Hulk says World War Hulk, and they just attack a city. It's just New York City. It's not a world. So I think it's pretty on brand to say world in the video description, and then actually it's just like a country or something. I lied, but you know, it's like a thematically it fits. The fact of the matter is that World War Hulk and all of his armies aren't big enough to take on the entire world. They take on one city. It doesn't cover the whole world. It's not like his troops are attacking Egypt and fucking China and Japan and all these different places. It's just New York City. Also, I should probably say before I get started into this, I'm not putting this in any particular order. Just because these characters go first doesn't mean they'll do the worst. I just know it's gonna take me a while to edit this because that first section is egregiously long, so I'm not worried about like structuring it properly like I normally do. Also, pretty important, I don't intend on spoiling people for the anime in this. Normally, I don't really care, but currently season 2 is still airing, and it's a pretty popular anime, and the majority of people who are watching the anime haven't read the manga, so I'm not gonna go into super hard detail of anything that's in the manga. I'm more or less really just gonna be talking about the anime. I might mention a couple powers that he has. It's from the manga, but it's not gonna be like super like spoilery. It's just gonna be like, oh, here's a list of powers. I'm not gonna give you any context for where where those powers come from. That's that kind of situation. Okay, let's go. So how would Japan in the Kaiju number 8 universe do if Hulk decided to come on down and be like, you kill my family, you put an atomic bomb, and blah, I'm gonna take you all out? How would that go? For the most part, it would go pretty well. I mean, don't get me wrong, Japan's gonna get super fucked up. They will, for sure. And there's a lot of soldiers within the defense force. That's the fucking kaiju fighting, faction that exists within Kaiju number 8. There are a lot of people that are in it that are gonna get super fucked up and really aren't gonna be able to do all that much. Not only not against Hulk, but not against Hulk's army. However, a large fucking portion of them will. I mean, the soldiers in the defense force, it is their job to fight giant fucking kaiju. And while most of them can't take on like the absolute biggest of kaiju in a 1v1 fight, they can still pretty much all take on at least smaller kaiju. These dudes are still like the size of a fucking large tank or like a bus or something. They're still really fucking big and super strong. And yeah, pretty much everyone in the defense force can at least somewhat fight against them. They're clearly superhuman, and the power structure of the series means that all of their guns enhance along with their physical abilities. This is why within the defense force you get characters with basic bitch rifles that are capable of blowing fucking massive kaiju apart, because the guns enhance along with their suits. That's just how it works. It's a technology. I don't know how it works, but it works. Now, I know some people might argue that there's a statement in World War Hulk that basically says that all of the people that came with Hulk, all of the Sicarians that he brought, are as strong as Hulk used to be when he left Earth, but this statement always seems stupid to me and not make sense. When Hulk leaves Earth, he goes through the little warp gate thing and he arrives on Sakaar. Big part of the plot is that he's way weaker. I talked about this earlier in the video. You heard me, you were there. But even at that point, like right when he arrived, he is still considerably stronger than any of his Warbound. And his Warbound are some of the strongest characters on the planet. Korg, who becomes like one of his closest friends, is a being that is not from Sakaar, that is considered one of the strong, like he's stronger than any of the species that are there. There's only like 2 or 3 people on the planet that are stronger than Korg. And Korg doesn't stand a chance against Hulk even when he's weakened after he comes out of that warp hole. And unlike Hulk, they don't appear to have any sort of strength buffs or increases at all. So I've always taken the statement that the Sicarians are as strong as Hulk used to be before he left Earth as just hyperbole, basically. I mean, it's said by a street level hero, and we really only see the Warbound fight against street level heroes, and yeah, they mostly kick their asses, because again, they're street level heroes. It's like fucking Iron Fist and Daredevil and shit. Like, they're not particularly powerful characters. In reality, these characters, even the absolute strongest ones like Korg, aren't even really shown to be able to like destroy whole buildings and shit. They're pretty tame. Now later on in the series, they get like massive power-ups. They actually do become relatively powerful. Still nowhere near the power of any Hulk that we've ever seen. But as far as Planet Hulk and World War Hulk are concerned, no, not even close. Korg is basically the strength of like pretty durable rock, more durable than normal rock, but still rock, in the rock area of durability. That's cool. I wouldn't compare that to Hulk or anything. Anyway, point is, the defense force is probably going to slaughter through them relatively quickly. It's also really helpful to the defense force the fact that they are kind of like conditioned to fight beings that are considerably more powerful than them. Like, they're always on standby and prepared to fight giant fucking kaiju monsters who attack their country on a daily basis. It constantly happens. So unlike New York City, where Hulk arrived and they were completely unprepared and everyone had to be like, oh shit, let's all get our shit together, we're being invaded. Defense force is going to be very prepared for this. There's like, oh shit, this is, I mean, it's not a kaiju, but we're still ready. Like, we're here, we got all our weapons, we're not changing anything. Let's just go do what we normally do, but now we're doing it against these fucking guys instead of a normal kaiju, whatever. My point is that every single member of defense force is very capable of fighting beings significantly stronger and larger than most of the people in Hulk's army. The only real issue they're going to have is Hulk himself, and yeah, it's going to be a pretty big issue. Basically, Hulk is better at doing everything that exists within the Kaiju number 8 universe than they are. Like, he can do it all, and he does it all better. Like, if you look at Kaiju number 8, who is the strongest being that exists on the defense force, he has a lot of the same powers that Hulk has. They both have regeneration, they both have strength levels that increase vastly with their anger and their emotional states. They're both super fast and super strong. They both can leap insane distances very far away. Both of their attacks make giant fucking shockwaves that can level whole sections of a city or multiple city blocks. They both have all this. It's just, Hulk's is better. Hulk's is like way better. Yeah, it's true. Kaiju number 8 can heal from a lot of damage. But in the World War Hulk storyline, there's a part where he goes and faces off against the X-Men. He fights all the X-Men at the same time. Well, most of the X-Men, not all of them, but the vast majority of them. And Kitty Pryde actually touches Hulk and drags his ass into the ground. And then she like you know, phases him. He like gets unfazed inside the ground. This actually fuses all of his atoms with the atoms inside the ground, which makes Kitty Pryde cry because she believes she just crippled the Hulk permanently because his arms and legs are fused into the ground. This is not just, you know, they're just in you now. It didn't just pierce you, but your atomic structure is actually built into the atomic structure of the ground now. Hulk, seeing this, rips himself out of the ground, and his healing factor just pushes the fucking rock atomic structure shit out of his own atomic structure. Like, he can heal this shit out of, even though like his flesh wasn't made of flesh anymore. His flesh was some weird abomination fusion between flesh and earth, and his healing factor still was able to get rid of them and remove them from his body. The entire bottom half of his body. That's a level of regeneration that Kaiju number 8 just straight up doesn't have. And a lot of the other abilities that exist in Kaiju number 8 outside of Kaiju number 8 himself, for instance, let's say fucking Narumi. I think Narumi, that's his name? I don't know. The dude who's in charge of like the first division, he's the fucking dude who likes to play video games and shit, and he's awesome, but I think it's like Narumi. It's some Japanese shit. He has this ability where he has these eyes that allows him to see inside the brains and body. Like, he can see every little bit of structure across their entire body. Like, it's like X-ray, but it's like way better than X-ray vision. Doing this, he can predict every move that a person will make because he can literally see into their brain and see their electrical signals. And by following their electrical signals and see where they're traveling to, he's capable of seeing what muscles will move in what direction and can like scan. Basically, he has foresight. He has foresight with these eyes based on being able to see how someone's brain and body is working. Now, normally this would be really, really good against the Hulk as he can predict everything that the Hulk would do, except for the fact that Hulk, when he was up against the X-Men, fought against Professor X and Emma Frost, the two most powerful psychics in all of Earth. Both of them tried to enter his mind to either read it or control it or calm him down, and they couldn't have any effect on it at all. In fact, Professor X stated that the reason why they couldn't control his mind is because his mind wasn't like a mind. When he tried to look at it, it was like trying to control a hurricane or a tornado. It was a force of nature. It wasn't like a brain like a normal person. So if that's the case, and two psychics, some of the most powerful psychics on Earth, Emma Frost has been stated to be so powerful as a psychic that she could take over the minds of every person on Earth at the same time, and they can't even read his thoughts. They can't see anything. I don't think Narumi's eyes are going to do anything. I don't think he's going to be able to see anything or really react in any way. So yeah, overall, I think they are doing better than I think a lot of people would give them credit for. For a large portion of this battle, I think they're going to do better than Marvel's New York City did because they were super unprepared and way over their head for the vast majority of that. At the end of it all, the Defense Force will still lose because they just simply can't compete with the massive, massive strength gap between Hulk and the rest of the characters in the Defense Force, whether that be Kaiju number 8 or literally anyone else. Even if we want to throw other Kaiju in there like Kaiju number 9 and shit, they're still not doing much because Kaiju number 9 is capable of being damaged by the other characters. And again, at absolute maximum, Kaiju number 8 is only punching at like country level, which yes, is the punch that Scar used to knock out Hulk, but it should also be noted that that was Savage Hulk, not Green Scar Hulk, who is a stronger version of Hulk, and that is the version that was there, which I probably should have brought up earlier. That is definitely a weaker version of Hulk. I mean, it doesn't really matter for the point that I was making earlier because Scar still fights against Green Scar and he does well and they fight, you know, and Green Scar wins, but it's still, yeah, whatever. Point is, Hulk is way too powerful and he's going to overcome everybody else, but basically his entire army should be more or less fucked. Next up, we have Japan, again, from Tekken. It's Tekken's version of Japan. And honestly, I think it's going to be the same exact situation again. I think that pretty much every Tekken character is going to be able to wipe the fucking floor with Hulk's army specifically. I mean, you're talking about characters like Brian, who can literally fucking throw a giant metal beam at a jet while it's flying at him and chuck a tank to the other side of the city and survive massive missiles to the face and all this kind of shit without ever being even like not even slightly bothered by it. And then you have characters like Fang Wei, who punched a mountain and split it in half. But yeah, like they're gonna fucking destroy Hulk's people. Once again, the real problem is gonna be Hulk himself, as Hulk for the most part is better than, I don't know, 95% of the entire fucking Tekken universe. Like, he's way stronger. It's really just the absolute peak strength characters like the Mishimas that are going to be able to challenge Hulk in any real way. Now, how much they challenge him, that's where it's kind of up in the air. We know that characters like Devil Jin can very, very casually destroy whole continents off the fucking earth. And Devil Jin, by this point in the series, isn't even top 3 strongest dudes. So clearly characters like Savage Hulk, who got one-shotted by Scar, that country level attack isn't going to be enough to take on even Devil Jin. And when you get up to Angel Jin and True Devil Kazuya, they could possibly be around the power of destroying 2 planets each. because Azazel is specifically stated to be able to destroy whole planets within his story. However, we don't know if that's just like a single attack or not, so maybe, you know, it might be a stretch, but given how strong we know Devil Jin to be, it's not that much of a stretch to say a character that completely dwarfs him in power would be able to destroy a planet. If Devil Jin could destroy a continent and Azazel is considerably more powerful at full power, then yeah, planet makes sense. Especially considering that Kazuya surpasses Azazel and then absorbs Azazel's power into himself. So he should be bare minimum twice as powerful as Azazel is, and again, there are multiple characters who just straight up say that they could destroy the world. It seems like it makes sense that these characters can destroy the world. So we're just gonna say Angel Jin can destroy a planet and True Devil Kazi can destroy a planet, but if you go lower than that, the answer is probably no. So in this fight, you have Hulk, who could potentially destroy a planet if he uses World Breaker Hulk form, which for the most part he can only do if he gets super pissed off. He doesn't actually get the ability to just activate it on command until the Heart of the Monster storyline, which happens like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years after the World War Hulk storyline happens. And then you compare that to something like Jin and Kazuya, who could probably more than likely destroy planets as well if you look at their power and see what they can do compared to other people could do. It would make sense they can do that, but they've never just straight up fucking done it before. So it's at least a little bit questionable. So what exactly happens here? Well, I think that Jin and Kazuya are winning if Hulk can't get into that World Breaker Hulk form. If Hulk does get in that World Breaker Hulk form, he's fucking dominating. Because even if Jin and Kazuya are capable of destroying planets at their absolute strongest, which again, I believe that there's more than enough evidence to say that they can, you still have the fact that Hulk, when he reaches that form, is literally destroying the fucking planet on accident just by clashing with other people. Just like the shockwaves of his attack and his powers blowing up the whole fucking planet. It's not just casual power for him, it's fucking accidental, which is not the case for someone like Kazuya or Jin. If they want to blow up the planet, they actually have to, like, you know, put some effort into it. So I think it's pretty easy to say that Hulk is just straight up more powerful. And you can't even say characters like Kazuya and Jin are better fighters than Hulk, because Hulk, when he's on Sakaar, is trained by the greatest fighters in, well, Sakarian warriors are considered some of the greatest fighters in the entire universe, and some of the best, the Shadow Priests of Sakaar, train him how to fight. They train him in tactics and strategy. They train him in combat with weapons and unarmed combat. They treat him with all kinds of stuff. So by the time Green Scar returns to Earth, he's actually like a super fucking skilled fighter now. So can Tekken win? Yeah, I think they can, but it really is just dependent on whether or not Hulk can release that full level of power. Because if he does, the whole Tekken world is destroyed. Everybody's getting wiped out. Kazuya's getting wiped out. Jin's getting wiped out. There really isn't a whole lot of evidence to the contrary. Next up, we have Earth from Invincible. Yeah, I'm doing it. It's the thing. It's the world. So it's not a lie. Boom. Look at that. It's like foreshadowing, but it's not foreshadowing. It's like when I tell you one thing, and then instead of giving you the thing that I tell you, I give you something totally different. You're just like, what? It's crazy. I don't know. It's that. So this would really depend on what we do. Are we going to do the show, or are we going to do the comics? Because if we do the show, they're fucked. Like we do like the Invincible War, right? We just remove the Invincible War, and instead we just throw Hulk and his invasion over there. What's that going to look like? It's gonna be really bad. Like the only person that's even capable of fighting anyone would be Tech Jacket, because Invincible's off crying in some fucking room somewhere about his girlfriend. No, well, no, that's not true, because his girlfriend doesn't get fucked up until after the invasion. If we're replacing the invasion, so his girlfriend's not fucked up. Okay, cool. So yeah, so Adam Eve could do it, and Invincible could do it, and Tech Jacket could do it, and that's it. Everybody else in the world is getting fucked up. And out of those three, Invincible, Adam Eve, and Tech Jacket can't do shit against Hulk at all. Not even a little bit. Like, even if it was a close fight, it wouldn't matter, because Hulk's regen is so far beyond anything that any of them can do. Invincible doesn't really have regen. It's one of the main things that makes him kind of shitty. Every Superman-esque like character, rip-off character, or inspired character, however you want to put it, has some form of really powerful regen. Superman has regen, Sentry has a regen, Gladiator has a regen, Blue Marvel has a regen. Everybody's got a fucking regen. And then Invincible's over here shattering his arm by punching a dude in the face, and that like takes him out of the fight. Why does it take him out of the fight? You should be fine. By the way, I am aware that Invincible characters are capable of healing. I get that. Like Conquest goes from being nearly dead to fucking not being, but it takes like months for him to heal. It's faster, but it's not great. Like he still gets fucked up. If you get fucked up during that fight, you're not getting better by the end of that fight, so you can continue the fight. You're out. And then maybe you can come back a couple weeks earlier than a normal person would be able to. But you're still fucked. The fact that none of these characters have healing factors means that, like, Hulk's at a serious advantage here when he fights against them. And none of these characters come close to even touching a planetary level of power, or even country or city at this point. I mean, fuck, in the show they haven't done shit. The comics is a little bit better. Mark is more powerful in the comics than he is in the show. You probably have Alan there. You probably have Omni-Man there. There's other characters that show up on the planet to, like, help and defend Earth from other places. So, like, there's more stuff. By the end of the day, I still think they're seriously outclassed. There's a massive power gap here between Hulk's dudes and Hulk himself. Like, massive power gap. So it seems like in almost all of these, Hulk's dudes get fucked up pretty much all the time, and then it's just Hulk against like the whole army. That's basically, that's everything. That's how it works. But I mean, we've seen that it takes 3 of these strongest Viltrumites to fly through a planet that's already greatly weakened to then destroy it, and it almost kills all 3 of them. In fact, they say that it will kill all 3 of them. It didn't, but it was going to. It was a fear that it would have. When you compare that to someone like Hulk, who's just fucking accidentally destroying planets by like being there and fucking taking steps and shit, it's just, come on. This is not close. This isn't even close to close. I've already talked in the past in several videos that characters like Jin and Kazi from Tekken would whoop even the strongest versions of Invincible's ass. We had whole debates about it, and I won those debates because I'm awesome. So, you know, if Tekken fucking loses, then obviously Invincible loses. Like, what the fuck are they gonna do? Really, the survival of the Invincible universe is entirely based on Hulk's desire to not hurt people. If Hulk's like, I don't want to fuck up your whole planet, you know, I'm trying to hold back so I don't fuck up your whole planet, then they'll be okay. They'll be alright. But if at any point he's like, no, we're gonna fucking go at it, like, we're really gonna go at it, you know, the whole Hulk and Sentry style where they nearly destroyed a whole city, then yeah, everyone's fucked. They can't do anything. Hulk's gonna dominate. This is a bad list. There's bad choices for this list. This isn't good. Last but certainly not least, we have Gaia from Final Fantasy VII, specifically the remake, not the original, because I don't know, I haven't played the original. Why? I didn't. I was busy playing Legend of the Dragoon. I thought that was the one that everybody was gonna be fucking blowing up about 10 years later, but no, nobody played it. They played Final Fantasy VII, so now we're all talking about Final Fantasy VII, and I'm out of the loop. You know what? But I played the remake, okay? It was good. I liked it, and that's the one we're gonna talk about. And despite me ordering this in just a completely random bullshit order, I actually do probably think that Gaia would do the best here. Not necessarily because they're physically stronger. I actually don't think they're physically stronger. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're really strong. Like, there are characters within Final Fantasy VII, specifically the summons, that are capable of destroying moons and countries and continents and all kinds of crazy stuff. And Cloud and other characters are capable of fighting against these summons and defeating them. And not only that, but it actually is stated within the lore that summons will only allow someone to summon them who has surpassed them in power. So Cloud actually does have to be physically and just generally all around more powerful than the summons that he summons. And even the summons that like destroyed the moon or turned the world to ash, like Ifrit's capable of doing, aren't the most powerful of summons. There are more powerful summons that Cloud is capable of getting. So yes, Cloud is very, very powerful. But that's not really the reason why he's going to do all that well. The reason why he's going to do super well is because the materia give him all kinds of crazy abilities that the other 3 on this list just straight up don't have. He basically has hacks. He's the only person on this list that actually has like legitimate hacks. Characters like Jin and Kazuya do have some hacks, which actually I didn't actually talk about. I'm sorry. I'm rushing through this because it took me a really long time to fucking record, and I'm still recording and I'm not done. It's like a whole thing. Okay. Technically, yes, Kazuya and Jin do have hacks. Jin actually has the ability to lock people in another dimension / universe, whatever, and trap them there. That would probably work on the Hulk if you use that on the Hulk. Kazuya also has the ability to fuck with souls, which at this point in comics should work. Hulk does eventually get the ability to just completely resist all kind of soul shit, but that doesn't happen until Immortal Hulk. In World War Hulk, he's not shown to have that ability, so it's possible that Kazuya's bullshit soul fuckery may actually work on that version of Hulk. Okay, so boom, take that little section and just imagine I said it in the Tekken section. But as for this section, Cloud has a lot more stuff. He can stop time, for instance. That's basically an instant win for the most part. There really isn't a whole lot getting around that. That's it. I mean, do I have to say anything else? Like, do I? He stops fucking time. I mean, I can go over a bunch more stuff that he could do, like the fact that he exists outside of fate, so fate doesn't affect him in any conceivable way. I can talk about his ability to copy the powers of other people that he fights against. Again, none of this is really relevant. I mean, time stop is fine. That'll do. That's all he really needs. And then he just go cut fucking Hulk's head off. Be done with it. It's over. You know, I don't think Hulk's coming back from having his head cut off. I mean, we know later on that he will, because, you know, the whole Immortal Hulk thing. He's immortal. He'll come back. But at this point, he doesn't know that. Hasn't been revealed to his character. And when he does eventually die after the World War Hulk storyline, he's dead for like a while. It's like several months before he comes back. So yeah, that would work. I mean, I can keep talking, but I really don't know what Hulk would have that would in any way be able to stop time stop. And if Cloud tries to utilize time stop, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't just do it again and just keep like, I'm gonna do this until I beat you. Just gonna keep stopping time. There's no reason why he wouldn't be able to do that. You know, he could just keep stopping it. Yeah, that's a pretty hardcore end to most fights when you can control a fucking literal concept of time. That's, yeah. All right. Yeah, this is over. But that's going to be all for me. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, join the membership. You get exclusive access to unique videos that no one else can get. And don't forget to check down below the pinned comment where you will see a link to the Discord as well as my second channel where I put any video that is not a survival challenge. Anything you want to see is not here, is over there. Is anything. You know, like my colonoscopy. I'll put it over there. And always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?